Today on the workbench, we're going to talk about this Army guy. While I was digging around in my yard, moving some dirt about, I found him buried in it. Okay, you're right. This is not what we're really here to talk about. I thought it would be a funny opener. What we are here to talk about is that little guy right there. This is a Timex model number 625. They made two different flavors of this. This color is called titanium, and they also did black. So the full model on this is T625T, and the other one is T625B. Not a whole lot of information available on the internet. I just got this thing yesterday, so I have no real experience with it. I needed a small AM/FM radio that offered CD that did not take a lot of space, so a small footprint is definitely what I was after. I found this in one of my local secondhand stores for the king's ransom price of $9.99. I plugged it in, it worked. Wasn't sure about the CD aspect of it, but when I switched it over there, I saw and heard the mechanics kick in like it was trying to do something. So I took a gamble. Figure worst case scenario, we could fillet it open, see what makes it work. So with the absence of not that much information on it, I don't really have that much to report back to. Now, what we're going to do here is just an overview. This is not a review. This thing came out in 2004. I'm not sure how much the asking price, but I think somewhere I saw it was $200 to $300. I could be totally wrong about this. I would have bypassed on this just because of the name Timex. When I first saw this, I thought it was a Sony product, and I was all in. But I figure, hey, let me check it out, test it, see what it does. It might be good. And much to my surprise, it was good. I don't know who manufactured it, or I don't know who made it. It very well could have been Sony. It's nice and solid, feels good. It don't feel cheap, plasticky. And it'll stay up right on its base just fine. Has some good weight to it. Now this is AM and FM band radio with nature sounds, and I'll demonstrate those here in just a moment. The manufacturer and distributor of this is not Timex. It's actually a company by the name of SDI Technologies. And a side note to that is SDI Technologies. Now I'm getting my information here off of Wikipedia. The highlighted bulleted points are SDI Technologies is the name of a consumer electronics manufacturer whose products are marketed under several national brands, including Timex, Sylvania, eKids, New Balance, Kid Design, and iHome. And they've also used to market under the name of Sound Design, which was originally Real Tone. So some of you probably recognize a few brands in there. Now, as I mentioned, this has nature sounds in it: ocean surf, rush brook, forest spring, and wind chimes. It has one-touch alarm settings which can accommodate a 7, 5, or 2 days a week scheduling. It has 3 distinct alarms which will individually wake you. Now this has 3 alarms on it, and you could set each one of those alarms to essentially go off at the same time if you so desire. The caveat to that is they cannot be all FM radio or CD or the nature sounds. They actually have to be individual, and each one could have its own time slot of the week to chime off. Unfortunately, you do not have the luxury of selecting which days you would like to have. It's either a Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or the full week. Now, this also sports 18 programmable minutes. You have 2 bands FM, 1 band AM, and each one can be programmed individually. And it has a 100-year calendar. Something else neat about this is it has what they call Sure Alarm battery backup. And as long as you have the 3 AA batteries installed, if you lose power, it's going to remember all your settings, which is cool. The other neat thing is if you have no AC mains power at all, the alarm will still go off. However, when it's on battery power, all the alarm you're going to get is a buzzard. So it'll conserve power for the important thing, and that's the alarm. And that'll last for as long as the life of the batteries. With all that said, let's go ahead and peruse the body. Let's check it out. Here on the front, we have nice large clock display. I'd say those are a good inch, quarter inch and a half. They're pretty big. And you notice that we have actual blinking seconds, which is kind of cool. Down here we have PM. When it's AM, there is no illumination for that, no display. Down below that, we have the calendar. There are other indicators in here. Some of them we may be able to hit on, others probably not. It took me quite some time to find the owner's manual for this device. I will host a copy of it on my website, so make sure you check out the link below so you can review the manual and understand the device, read more of its functionality, more in depth on the buttons, etc., etc. It'll also have a blown up view of just the display with all of its working idiot lights and what they do. For front panel buttons, we have our channel selector, forward and backward. We have an enter button, and you can see that our forward and backwards has multiple tasks, which will correlate with your enter button. The enter button also correlates with a lot of the other buttons. Again, check the PDF to see exactly what everything does and how they do it. We have our 6 programmable slots with a band selector in the middle. On this side, we have the CD caddy, and you push this button right here to release it, and opens it up. The door itself is really nice, easy to pop out, and it's easy even putting in a CD. Now, I wish I could say the same was true going backwards. I find it difficult, a little challenging, to pull this out. This door is kind of in the way, and kind of cumbersome. For me, if I was designing this, I would have designed the door to pop out even further, or something, just make it a little bit easier to get in, get out. On the opposite side, it appears to look like a CD caddy, storage, etc., but there's nothing there, just the design, the big logo on there, just in case you don't know that it's a CD player. Here on the back side, we have open area for the door to swing open, headphone jack, an external wire antenna, which is about 1 meter long, 3 feet long, and then the power cord, which is your standard 6 foot, 2 meters long. And down here we have a speaker. Now, I forgot to point this out on the front side, but kind of looks like we have 2 speakers on either side. That's not true. Not sure if the camera's picking up. Yeah, a little bit. We actually have portholes, so our front speaker is right there. On the top here we have our navigation keys. You could have nature sounds, radio, or CD. Again, multi-function buttons. Down below we have our volume controls, up and down, and then we have a bass enhancement button, which it does work. You're not going to win any competitions with it, blow out any radio windows, but it is noticeable. This radio, not only will it wake you up, but you could fall asleep with it. We have the sleep volume. Yes, we have 2 volumes, but this volume could stay loud for your alarm in the morning. It wakes you up. While this one, you have 3 steps that you could select for your volume loudness as you doze, so you don't have to have it blaring or turn it down and miss your alarm. We have the off reset button. Not quite sure what the reset's all about. I guess it's one of those things I'll have to read the book. We have the door open button. We have a snooze and dimmer button. Self-explanatory for the snooze. If you don't want to get up, you just hit this, and sometime in the near future, it'll try again to wake you up. Dimmer control is a 3-stage dimmer for the display. And lastly but not least, under the hood. Oh, almost forgot to mention, it's sports auto set. No, this is not a atomic clock. What little I did read of the book, or it's very little, it stated that you don't have to set the calendar and the time. It'll do it automatically. You plug it in and you're way to go. This does have multiple zones, 7 zones. By default, this is set up for Eastern Standard Time. You'll have to go in there and set it for your zone. When I plugged it in and had it left plugged in overnight, I did not notate the time was set. It could have been, I could have just missed it and wasn't paying attention. And then the last button here I almost forgot is CD mode. So you can select between random, repeat, or repeat random, or just normal. And that could be what the reset button's for. I'm not sure. I do know that when you hit the off reset, it will shut down the radio. So the reset could be for some of the programming, takes you back to a base. I'll have to play with it one day. This also is set up for time change. Unfortunately, if you're in a state that does not offer or observes the time change, there's nothing you can do. You cannot turn that feature off. It's either on or it's on. And it also covers leap years. Now lastly, I started popping this open earlier, underneath the hood. That's right, more buttons. So if you like buttons, this is a good choice for you. Underneath the hood is the business end. You have your time set, your calendar set, and your CD set. And these buttons here, you can select CD, radio, or sounds to how you want to wake up. Each one of those has their own corresponding alarm. You could have either one set up for all week, another one set up for Monday through Friday, and then the other one Saturday and Sunday. Again, as I stated, you could only select which option for which one. They cannot have, all 3 alarms cannot be set to CD or radio. It has to be mixed. Now for the dimmer side, again, you hit this button on top, and I think you have 2 or 3 levels. There's 1, there's 2, and 3. Or some kind of magical number like that. On my model, you can probably see that part of the screen over here is somewhat dim. So this side of the panel is tiring. Now, after all of that, let's check it out. Let's hear how it sounds. I also want to mention something I forgot. As I stated, this unit is stereo. And even though we don't have an idiot light to illuminate, you could definitely hear the separation of the channels, more so when you're picking up a frequency on the fringe. Not quite strong enough, you could hear that static on both sides of the speakers. And the headphone jack is also stereo. So let's go ahead and hear it play. Let's start off with the sounds real quick. There's only 4 of them. Kind of cool. Next up, the radio. you could hear that this station is not being received too well, and you should be able to hear the stereo separation. Change frequency again, you could either push it once or hold it down and let it scan the band.
Bag for the cool price of $3.99 for as long as we can keep them in stock. Find them in our produce section. Or on the above. I don't want. Bring it on over. Yeah, we the only ones that stuck now. Let's.
Alright, so you get the gist of it. As I mentioned, this radio will allow you to fall asleep and it'll auto shut off after a preset time. It's not a 5-minute increment, a 1-minute increment. It only has 4 settings for sleep. And the way how you activate it, when you're in sound and radio, you would hit either one of those corresponding buttons on top and that'll toggle the sleep mode. So let's go ahead and do that. We have our option of 90, 60, 30, 15. And the way how you cycle through that is you keep hitting the corresponding button on top, radio or sounds. For a CD, when it gets to the end of the disc, it'll automatically shut off, so you don't have that same function on that button. Let's go ahead and load in a CD. Push the CD button. Turn the volume up. Now, this has search feature when you're in CD mode. You just press and hold it. Or to advance to the next song. Now, since this is relatively new to me, I have not tried MP3 in it. Nowhere on it says MP3 supported, so I very seriously doubt it will. And it came out about the time that manufacturers started to offer MP3 playing. And now I'll turn the volume down to go through the next button, which will be the CD mode. As you can see there, track repeat, random, and repeat and random. As I mentioned before, this has a sleep feature, which is kind of cool. And I mentioned the sleep volume, which is separate from the main volume. If you look at the window down here, when I push the sleep volume button, and I don't know if you could hear that, but the volume did drop. Do it again. And then lastly, which is just barely audible. If you needed it any louder, however, that sleep volume button does work in concert with the master volume, because even though it's low here, I could still bring it up just a little to where I need. So you can make it truly what you want. As you see down here, we have the EXB button, or light, which is next to the daylight saving time and the sleep volume. So let me go ahead and turn the volume up just a little bit so we can hear that bass button. I almost forgot to cover the bottom. On the bottom, not much, we have the battery door, which houses 3 AAAs. This is more likely the little buzzard when you're on straight batteries that will sound. We have the label, and then we have this label. Not sure what all those numbers mean, but I'm sure something important. It could be a date code. We have a total of 5 rubber feet. And speaking of feet, as you see those 2 arrows, for more stability if you need, those little guys pop out. Where I plan on putting this, these feet don't necessarily have to be open. The item appears to be pretty stable on its own, but it's really cool to know that they're there if you need them.